because I found out that garlic is amazing. Of course, garlic's the best thing in the game. I want to tell you about a game you didn't think that I'd play.
Oh no.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
The Kool-Aid Man's back. Yeehaw! There's a game that a lot of people have been talking about recently. DC has actually been streaming it quite a bit, but it's called Vampire Survivors.
I would love to survive a vampire attack.
Yes! Wouldn't everybody? This actually comes on a wave of a lot of vampire-related games that have somehow come out in the last, 6 months or something. There was V Rising was a big one everyone was talking about, Immortal Realms Vampire Wars, and everyone's still talking about maybe at some point Bloodlines 2 will come out. We don't know. Someday. But the most unlikely of subjects to be a kind of runaway hit was Vampire Survivors. And I thought to myself, well, I'll try it. It doesn't really look like my kind of game, but I'll give it a shot and see what it's like. I'm almost angry by how the simplicity of the game makes it endlessly addictive.
Mm-hmm.
And so for the uninitiated, I don't know if you're very familiar with the game itself, but...
Seen it, I haven't played it, I have no interest in it. I'm not a fan of bullet hell games.
Yeah,
typically.
And that's the thing. I'm not either. I don't really care that much about bullet hell games. Here's the thing that's really surprising about it. When it starts, you have one character unlocked, and they have the one level unlocked. Makes sense. You go into that first stage with this one character, and they say he's equipped with a whip. Great, okay, so I have a whip. And you go in...
Belmont, got it.
Yeah, exactly. They're the first 4 characters, the first that you can unlock and the others that you can unlock, those are all the same same family. So I'm guessing it's supposed to be I think it even starts with a B. So it's the Belmont analog. Yeah. So anyway, you get in there and you're like, okay, I know how fighting games work. And I go to use my whip on the first bat that shows up. And I'm realizing, wait a second, I'm trying to push buttons. What button actually makes my weapon go? I don't know. I'm moving around, but I can't actually do the thing. So it turns out, none of that is under your control. All you do is the movement part through the landscape. You do not control when your whip happens. Your whip is automatically going at a regular interval. And it goes in the direction that you happen to be facing. And then when you start upgrading it, it can go in 2 different directions and stuff like that. But you don't actually control the frequency of it. And as you start to gain other weaponry, they are also outside of your control. And they have certain, behaviors that they use to, go around in circles or bounce off of walls or whatever it is. But you don't control that, for the most part. All you really do, the main thing you have in your control at any given time, is moving. That's it. Just moving around. Yeah. And at first I saw that and I thought to myself, well, this seems incredibly boring.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just moving in these different directions. That's all I do. I don't have any other controls over it. Well, again, 15, 20 hours later, I was wrong, because what they do is they start out at this deceptively simple idea of you just trying to survive as long as you possibly can, as these waves of, tougher and tougher creatures start coming at you, accruing levels and getting different kinds of power-ups and, finding different combinations. Oh yeah, then they start talking about different combinations of things that actually lead to bigger and better weaponry. And right. Then you get to collect gold, and you can use that gold outside of your run to increase different stats, or unlock different characters, or unlock different abilities, or anything like that. And then you start going, ooh, cool, and this one works really well with this build, and that allows me to get ahead of the curve so that I can then just eliminate a whole bunch of guys that are coming at me, because I found out that garlic is amazing. Of course, garlic's the best thing in the game. If I actually build correctly and I get the right kinds of upgrades and the right kind of weapon combos, I could just plow through all of the giant golems and knock them back immediately. And isn't that super cool? And oh, can I make it to the 30-minute mark? And oh, there's this question mark on the map that just unlocked. What's on the question mark? Oh, it's a secret coffin. Oh, I can get into the coffin. Oh, there's a boss coming at me. Can I get rid of the demon the Reaper that just showed up at the 30-minute mark? Can I defeat him? And then the best part is when you run away from the bad guy on one of the secret stages, all of a sudden the screen just like turns in on itself and I end up like in this corridor that leads to like a secret yellow safety cone that I unlocked at the end, and a little digitized hand coming up and giving me a slow clap for finding a secret in the game. And you're just sitting there the entire time kind of going, how did I spend all of this time playing this game where literally the main mechanic is literally just walking around a map? It's terrifying.
Can we classify this as a walking simulator?
It's a walking simulator with a lot of death involved. Like, there's so many bodies that pile up. In addition to that, there are all of these unlockables and goals that happen where different characters, if you get them to certain levels or you let them survive for so long in different phases, or you defeat bosses in those, you unlock something else. And then look at all the unlocks you got in this run. You got like 9 unlocks. You got 3 different characters. You got the hyper mode that you unlocked in this level. And look, 3 new combinations were unveiled to you. And isn't that cool? New types of weapons, new types of upgrades that you can get. Oh, you unlocked the merchant. Now there's a merchant at the beginning of the game. You might be able to permanently upgrade your stats or something like that. Isn't that neat? Here's a new stage. It's different than the last one. You walk in a corridor up and down, or left and right, or you go to a milk factory. That's right, there's a freaking milk factory in this game. And with like fish people that come at you, like the creatures from the Black Lagoon. How'd they get there? I don't know. And before you know it, after they keep giving you all of these other little incentives, like one after the next, you look at the time clock and you kind of go, I've been playing this for 5 hours straight now. Mm-hmm. How'd that happen?
Yeah.
And I think that that's a really interesting idea, that the simplicity of the game at the start, that's so simple to wrap your head around, like literally you can move. That's it. Ends up being the thing that keeps you going forward as new things happen. But the core of that gameplay is still I just move. Like, by the end of the game, and I've, like, unlocked all the levels and stuff, and I think most of the characters and everything, the basic mechanic is you move around the map. That's it. They didn't really change anything about the core dynamics of the game itself.
Yeah.
It is a far cry from a lot of, like, the AAA titles that I've seen that give you this giant tutorial of all of the systems that you have to understand at the beginning that I usually don't play very much. There was a recent one that I tried called Thymeria, which is a Souls-like title where you're like a plague doctor.
Mm-hmm.
And inside the first, like, 30 minutes... they have to explain to you, here's your dodging action, here's how you parry, here's how you do a perfect dodge and an attack, here's your stamina meter, here's your life meter, your special meters, and all of that. Here's, they go through this long list of, like, everything that you need to do with these tutorial sections. And frankly, I just kind of got a little bewildered up at the front. Vampire Survivors doesn't have that problem.
No.
It's almost so rudimentary that they literally don't even give you a tutorial. They literally they set you down and it's like, you figure it out. And once you figure it out, you're like, oh, this is easy to understand. I don't even have to attack.
You could just stand still.
the fun thing is that you start to make little challenges for yourself. There's a character called Poe, who's like the old man with the cane, and he's like my main, because he has garlic at the very beginning. And so garlic, for people that don't know, is this like radiation like around you that will damage creatures as they come close to you. And then as you increase it, it will expand in damage and in radius. And you can use some upgrades to even expand it more. So anything that gets inside of it just starts to instantly start taking damage. One of the best ways to deal with, creatures coming from all parts of the screen. And so one of the fun things I found is, I'm wondering how long I can stand in this one spot before they actually start to do damage to me. And, if you get the right upgrades, you can stand there for a good long time and just let them keep coming up and getting hit by the garlic sphere that's around you. So that's always fun. Again, it's like one of those things where you almost make the fun yourself as you start to understand the very simplicity of the systems. And I really liked it. I thought to myself, wow, I kind of wish that games would take more of this approach up at the front of just giving people a very, very limited number of things to do before expanding upon it. And just try to go with your one central idea, one mechanic, and there's nothing more rudimentary than moving. And so by taking that as your main mechanic and your only real mechanic, and then just expanding upon that with the strategy elements and randomized elements that comes with like the roguelike kind of nature of it, it becomes endlessly replayable. And it becomes endlessly interesting to find out what the next thing is that you can do. So I was really impressed by it. I was surprised by it because, again, when I saw bullet hell, I normally think about like twin stick shooters.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. Or a lot of the bullet hell ones where I have to avoid every little bullet that's coming at me. And there's not a lot of that in this. Not a lot of shooty enemies that come at you. It's mostly just a lot of dudes that are like shambling up to you and trying to knock through your defenses. So I thought it was a really interesting idea. I thought it was a really interesting concept. The pixel graphics would probably turn you away a little bit.
Meh.
But
it's more okay with games like that.
Yeah, because it feels a little old school anyway. Yeah. And yeah, there's definitely some meta elements to it. Like I said, the little slow clappy hand that comes up, or the world starting to like invert on themselves in some cases. Interesting stuff all around. But yeah, I wanted to just share the idea that the simplicity of that being so incredibly rudimentary ends up being one of its strongest assets.
Yeah.
So,
and there's a lot of course, that hit really big. And now there's 15 bajillion clones of it that you can get as well.
Yeah, I just saw one, I think, on Itch.io that they were like, it's like Vampire Survivors, but it's like hardcore. And I'm like, I don't know, man. I had trouble, like, a lot of times surviving to, like, the 30-minute mark, especially up at the front. It takes a long time for you to, like, figure out how to do that.
Yeah.
And get lucky enough to happen to get the combination to do it. I don't really think I needed an extreme version of it, but that's like everything, you know, as soon as like one idea hits, you see a million clones of it. So it's really not surprising. But good on the development team. I was happy with the product that they gave me, and I'm surprised. I liked it a lot more than I thought I was going to.
For the price you paid for it, it sounds like you got well more than your money's worth out of it.
I mean, it was on Game Pass, so yeah, I got my.
Even better.
So technically, I just paid what my Game Pass subscription is to play it for its time period. So is it the kind of game that you would normally like? Did you know that it's just the movement part when you saw the playthroughs?
Yeah, I've seen it played. I've seen other games that are very similar to it, clones of it played as well. It's not really something I probably would pick up, like with a thought process to want to play it, but like I'd probably enjoy it when I did play it.
The fact is that Vampire Survivors, being so very limited in the mechanics up at the front, means that, one, I never find any bugs. Like, there's no glitches or bugs in it because it's so very rudimentary. And right out of the gate, you enjoy the gameplay. I'd like to see more games like it, but not clones of it. I don't really think that I want to just play more games that are just that, but, like, in space or some shit, like, you know. Vampire Survivors, surprisingly good, even though it's not really the kind of game that I normally play. Yeah. If any of you out there have happened to play it, or know of another game that was unusual for you to enjoy, please let us know in the comments down below.
Yes.